Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pain to Purpose podcast. My name is Vanessa I, your host of the Pain to Purpose podcast. And how perfect is it that we have Kerri Hummingbird on today to share her story of healing the mother wounds. And after speaking with her, we got connected through a Sense of Soul podcast. She was interviewed on there, and Mandy sent her over to me, and I just heard some of her story, and she's writing a book, and she just told me some about it, and I'm blown away because I've been hearing a lot about this, healing the mother wounds and healing the feminine wounds, and just how this is huge within our world right now. And so I'm really blessed to have her on today. Thank you, Kerri. How are you?
It's good to be here. Thank you, Vanessa. I'm really excited to be here and share. And it's definitely true. The when I started talking about the mother wound, I didn't know how much it was part of the collective consciousness already. I just heard the message and about a year and a half ago and said, okay, I'll write that book. And, it made sense that I was getting tapped to write the book. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I've kind of had a challenging relationship with my mom, and I've had a challenging relationship as a mother. So I understand, makes sense. And I've certainly experienced the sister wounding, that we could have among each other. But then I was really surprised to find out just how prevalent it is, like just how many people already just sort of know about it. And when you hear the words, you just instinctively, you're like, yes, that's something we're healing. Yes, we're working on healing the divine feminine, and it's got a lot of wounding.
Yeah, yeah. So you said that you after hearing that you've recognized, like, I definitely have some of that wounding. So how was that showing up for you with your relationship to women, your mom, your children?
It shows up in so many ways. And so, everybody out there that's listening, and Vanessa, just find yourself in it, because we all share a little sliver of it somewhere, but it shows up in a lot of pervasive ways. So, distrusting other women is one way that it shows up. Feeling lack of confidence, feeling uncertain in yourself, not trusting your own intuition, having a hard time like sharing your heart with your mom, for example, and feeling like maybe you're not being heard or received or understood. And, there's a big part of it that's the control over paradigm. So feeling controlled or subjugated or, suppressed, not being able to speak fully or clearly your own truth. That's another way it shows up. Jealousy between, jealousy of other women, jealousy of maybe even jealousy from your mom. You might have that icky feeling sometimes. There's just so many ways that it manifests, and really it has to do, it's such a core wound that it affects every area of our lives. Like it can affect your ability to go for the job you want, or to have a good partnership with your mate, or to get along with your family, or to have good solid female friendships. It touches so many areas because of how core it is to our development.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely understand my relationship that I've had with women. I've actually had more male best friends that I was actually really able to connect with. And I always thought that it's just like I'm a masculine female and I just resonate more with boys or whatever, which can be partially true, but I definitely have had a lot of issues growing up, getting bullied by other girls and stuff like that. And so what has been some of your process that you have used to heal yourself after having this awareness that this is a core wound for you and for many others?
Well, I realize I've been healing this wound my whole life, but you don't really realize it till later. You're sort of just going through the motions and like, hey, my life's uncomfortable. Hey, my relationship needs some work. Hey, I'm not getting where I want to in my career. Wherever the entry point is, you start working it. And I started working it through psychotherapy. So I was on a couch, on the opposite side of the expert, talking about myself and my problems for about 20 years. And that was the modality available to me. So I'm 51. So as I was coming into this, personal healing space, that was the modality that was most prevalent and available for me. And it gave me insight, it gave me reflection, it gave me empathy, depending on what therapist I was with. I got those things, but it just didn't heal it. It didn't change it. It didn't transform it. It didn't transmute it. It just, the problems were still there. I was just aware of them. So I needed to move into the next part, and I couldn't move there until I got all the way down into, the bottom of the pit with my first marriage. And that ended in an explosion of, infidelity and lots of other really acting out and being melodramatic, which is another aspect of this mother wound, is the melodrama. Just like the emotional, an inability to regulate emotions, I guess would be, I definitely experienced that. So I left the marriage, and then I got on this path of spirituality. So when I discovered like shamanic healing, energy healing, hypnosis, all of these subconscious terrains, subconscious tools to navigate the terrain down there and the unknown, that's when it started really working for me. So I was like, okay, now something's changing, something's shifting, something's working. I'm not just painfully aware of it. I'm not just banging my head against the same brick wall. I'm actually changing. I'm actually shifting. And so that's been my journey for the last 9 years, has been exploring those subconscious modalities.
Wow, that's beautiful. And so this journey started for you. Was there when this journey started for you, was there like a point when you realized that like I need to make some type of shift? You
Oh
mentioned your
yeah.
last marriage. So was it your last marriage, or what happened that you just realized it was like that wake up call for you, like this needs to change?
Well, so the funny thing is I thought I was doing it all along because I was doing what they said you were supposed to do, going to psychotherapy sessions. And then I had like postpartum depression after my first child, which is another topic we can touch on. But like the mother wound does tend to surface when you give birth to a child. Like all the things that are unresolved from your own ancestry and your own childhood, they just like flourish inside of you in a really painful way. And you can have to face it, when you first have a baby. It's one of those initiations. So it happened to me, and then I got on the not feeling pills, because the modalities that are prevalent in Western culture, hey, just don't feel it. We'll just like, you can come here and vent, and then, to psychotherapy, and then just take a pill. We're not trying to solve anything really. We're just gonna, try to like get you through the day. And that's our whole approach, right? But what I found is that didn't really work. It's super painful to have unresolved, lingering um, issues you can feel in your very body. Like it's like being saturated by it, and not being able to escape it or get away with, or change it at all, and just having to cope with it is what a lot of people are doing. And that is so painful. So that crushes you after a while, and it crushed me. And so, yeah, after that, I said, you know what? I am not doing it the way they're telling me to do it anymore. That was the pivotal change. I said, I'm walking away from psychotherapy. I'm walking away from this relationship. I'm heading into the unknown. I'm bushwhacking it. I'm just gonna figure out how I can be happy with me and not worry so much about what everybody else tells me how I'm supposed to do it according to everybody else. That was the key decision that finally liberated me. And a lot of people in my family thought I was weird, like she's got a drum. She's like going to drum journeys. She's talking about healing. She's going to healing school. What is she doing? She's gone for a week. She's doing yoga. Like, this person's weird, like she's not eating meat anymore, like I stopped eating meat for a while. Like there's just like a lot of changes I started making, and everybody thought I was so weird because I wasn't playing along with the way they thought I should be.
Oh, wow, that's so huge. And how funny is it that postpartum depression, how I've heard this from many women that I've spoken to, and clients that I've had personally as well, that it's just a thing that you go through. But I love how you're correlating all these different pieces. Well, like why is it something that majority of women go through after being pregnant? And so I love how you said that it's like it is like an initiation. You know, you just went through this whole transformative process of bringing life into this world. And so you're having to face a lot of your wounding that you haven't quite got to fully heal and transform yet. So I love how you're making those correlations.
I think we can do it more consciously. I think as we wake up together, I think we'll find that we can birth babies into the world way more consciously. And we can at least, because what part of it's happening, and I only understood this after I started working with plant medicine. Plant medicine taught me that sometimes there's consciousness inside of you, like thoughts and feelings that got suppressed or stuffed, or traumas that happened in the body that got held in the body. And the most efficient way sometimes of getting it out of your body is purging it out, is like barfing it out, like that's just the way to get it out. And I realized after that experience, I was like, whoa, like first trimester, why do so many women get sick? And I'm thinking, we're purging out the stuff from our consciousness that's not suitable for the baby that's getting ready to come in. And
Oh,
we didn't do it up until now, so we're doing it now.
wow. I've practiced womb cleansing when I went to uh, Medicine Women's School of the Healing Arts and was learning all about shamanic techniques and the practices and stuff. And I was introduced to womb cleansing and just how our as women and men do too. They have an energetic womb. They do house in their own way energy from past partners that is transferred. But as women, when we're not conscious of our womb and we're not able to the shedding that we do get up to a certain point in our lives, that can be a really powerful process to go through if you're conscious of it, that you when you are more conscious of it, you're able to shed those stories and that energy from past partners and traumas. It so much gets stuck in there, so it makes total sense to me. I've worked with some women that weren't able to get pregnant, and we did some past life regression, and there was so much story and fear held in their womb that wasn't allowing the baby to come through. So it's so interesting when you start really diving into this stuff.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And so I think that we're, healing the mother wound is really understanding that we're very complex, multidimensional beings. And we have this idea that we're separate and small. That's part of the mother wound too. We're not separate and small. We're part of, we're connected very intimately with all of life on earth. The indigenous people have known this forever and held this wisdom like, hey, you're not separate from the ocean. You're not separate from the butterfly. You're not separate from each other. You are part of the whole. Every glass, like every time I drink water now, I'm like, okay, every ancestor has drank from this water. I just acknowledge this water has every person alive today and every ancestor has drunk from this water because that's the truth. It's just we just don't have that concept of ourselves. So healing the mother wound is to get ourselves back into connection with everything that is and realize that, unity is this idea of unity is beautiful. Unity doesn't mean conformity, though. Unity means diversity. It means uniqueness. It means the big puzzle that we all fit our little place inside that puzzle. And when we're really in our own lane and we're really following our own hearts and we're really showing up as authentically as us, then the masterpiece is made, the symphony is made because we're not trying to play someone else's instrument. We're all playing our own instrument at the right time. So that's where we're headed. And part of this process is learning things like you were talking about. I'm fascinated by what you were saying about the womb healing because I did not know any of this when I had my babies. I just like I had ever however many sexual partners I had, probably a lot. I I had this partner that we got married, and we had sex and we probably didn't do it consciously. Like we weren't sitting there going, okay, we're going to intend, I see people that consciously intend, like we're consciously intending a baby now. We're going to have intimacy and we're going to consciously welcome this baby into my womb. And we're going to like all this. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even do that. I was just like, okay, like, go. come on home, like, so when my first son came into my womb, it was kind of a surprise, but also, well, it was a big surprise, but I could feel his energy. I could feel his energy signature completely distinct from mine. Like I was even in my unconsciousness, I could still feel like, oh my God, he's arrived. He's in me, but he's not merged with me, but he's here, but he's separate, but he's enfolded in me somehow. Like I can feel his soul, his consciousness investigating mine. Like it's wow. I mean, it was profound, for me at the time. So it was a huge awakening. Really big.
Wow. So I know when we last spoke, we got talking about a really important subject that I feel like is really important for us to talk about today, for more people to hear, and it has to do with, being on this conscious path, and we're becoming aware of our wounds and the mother wounds, and just, when you become aware, there can be a lot of, either if it's resentment against yourself or regret, like, why didn't I know this sooner, or would have done better if I knew. And there can be a lot of blame that women can have against themselves, and depending upon how their children grow up as well. So I'd love for you to share, just coming from a mom that's conscious on this journey and sharing beautiful work with the world, how women that are in this conscious space and on this spiritual journey, and they're coming to terms with these wounds that they have, and just what has occurred in their life, how would you suppose that they,
Deal
how
with those feelings.
yeah, the
Well,
feeling.
they're not very productive feelings, I can say that. And if you have them, it's okay, let them be and like process them, but don't let them take over because I'll just say a little story. When I started waking up and I was learning energy medicine at the Four Winds Light Body School, I was studying with Alberto Vialdo and his teachers. And one day he always liked to go into class and do a little lectures and things like that, which I always loved. And so I'm sitting there listening to him, and he says, it's one of the first classes, he says, everybody in this room has mommy daddy issues. Every single person in this room has mommy daddy issues. And we are all like kind of offended, like, oh, but you don't know what they did, and like whatever where our story was, right? And the story is precious, it's potent, it's real. We experience these things from our parents. It's like, ugh, like it's tangible. But he was poking at that, and then he said, I'll tell you a pathway out of those feelings you've got right now, and who wants it? And so we're like, okay, I want to know how I get out of feeling that way. And he said, well, the pathway is to remember that you're a soul and that you came into this incarnation. You chose your parents because of the configuration that they offered you in their DNA and in their life's experiences and the ancestral traumas and all the things that were experienced in that line. You chose to come in to embody that line, to embody that matrix. And then like that's your puzzle. You came in to solve it. And that's not the words that he uses. That's how I talk about it now. But you come in to solve that puzzle, and you can only have the life experience you're intending to have if you embody the starting point from which all of those experiences that you're going to have unfold. So in other words, we choose it. And so if you know that you choose it and you can accept that for yourself, most spiritual people can say, yeah, I know that I chose my parents. But then you say to a mom, your kids chose you, and they're like, no, but I screwed up. Your kids chose you. So, don't feel bad. They picked you. They knew exactly what you were going to screw up on. Like they came in, souls, we can see the whole timeline, right? So they already know that you're going to like do whatever you do. Like for me, they already knew I was going to go crazy wild in my, repressed sexuality. And then just like Pandora's box going to flip off and I'm going to go wild and I'm going to like kind of not be present as a mom for a while. Like they knew that. They
Mm,
knew I was going to do that. Something about that experience, they needed that implanted so they could work through. And both of my kids are sons. So they needed to work through healing the masculine in relation to all the stuff that I demonstrated. And let's just be honest, I was demonstrating many of the negative polarity of feminine behavior. I was exhibiting like drama and acting out and manipulation and vindictiveness and using my sexuality to get attention and all of these things. I exhibited many patterns of the negative pole of feminine sexuality and feminine expression. So they obviously came in to choose that. And as they have been growing and as I've been on this path, this is another thing they chose. They chose to have a mom that did like a 180 pivot, like just went, whoop, like through the energy medicine. That's a pretty dramatic path. I mean, like energy medicine, energy healing, these ancient arts of transformation, working with the Akashic records, these things make dramatic, quick, transformative change. Like it just like blows your mind how fast it happens for the individual. Then it ripples out into the family, so the family receives all the healing that we do, and then they've got to somehow like grapple with like their world view being toppled and all the things changing, the structures changing, everything's moving, right? It's all moving parts. So they came in for that experience. So don't think that, well, I screwed up back then and I really messed up, and so now that my kids are forever, that's why my kid doesn't succeed, So I could say that about my 21-year-old. Oh, that's why my 21-year-old isn't like textbook successful, like he didn't like just graduate from college and all of these things that I did. Because when I went through my phase, I was obedient. I did all the things I was supposed to do in the order I was supposed to do them, and then I went crazy later. So I made prayers for him that he wouldn't do that. I made prayers that he would really screw up bad and get it over with early and then get on the right path, the authentic path, and live the rest of his life in his dharma. That was my prayer. Like that once by the time he started his family, he'd be in his power as a man. So he's on that trajectory. He's really screwing up big time right now. So he's doing his job. But like if your kid's really like always been the dissident, always been the those the in the eyes of other judgmental parents, like, oh, my kid's such a screw up, like everybody's saying these things about my kid. Like, no, like your kid's probably one of the second wave that's here to disrupt all the patterns and like just mess it all up. So he's not going to be successful. She's not going to go along. She's going to do it her way. He's going to do it his way. And that's exactly right. It's exactly right. And if it pokes you and it makes you feel like a bad mom, awesome. Deal with your inner narcissist, because that's what we're dismantling too. We're dismantling the inner narcissist, the mother that's like, oh, everyone's judging me. How my kid turns out is what a good mother I was or a bad mother I was. My kid's a reflection of me as a mother. And so I need my kid to be a certain way so that everybody perceives me as being like awesome. Yeah. And
Wow.
that's a lie. That's like such a lie. Your kid's life has nothing to do with your life. You just set the patterns up. That's it. You just hold presence. Your kid's going to do whatever your kid's going to do. Just like love them unconditionally. Let them be who they are.
Wow. That's wonderful. I love that. And I also am grateful that I'm learning this stuff before ever having children.
You have a unique opportunity. So great. And you're still going to screw up. So,
Oh,
you
yay.
can't avoid it.
Yeah, speaking of that, the perfectionism, has perfectionism ever been something that you've dealt with or
Oh,
seen others deal with?
that's a huge part of the mother wound. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
perfectionism, right? Because it's all about how you get love.
Mm,
Everything is about getting love. And the mother wound is on the biggest level, the most expanded level, is the realization that you're not separate from love. Like you can't, if love is all that is, that includes you.
mm,
It's you too. So if love is all that is, that means it's filling you up too. So how can you need to get it if you already are it? It it's just a messed up thinking.
mm,
It's a conditioned thinking. And it's part of that separation complex with spirit, with who we are in truth. So as that gets healed, as that mother wound gets healed, and we remember, oh, I'm constantly connected to the mother. I'm constantly connected to love. I'm constantly connected to my creator. I can't be separate from my creator. I am my creator. Like it's all that is. Then some of these tenets, these trying to get love from outside of ourselves, from our mother first, right? that goes into the background. Our mother, father trying to get love from them. And that's all about performance. It has been about performance. It has been about performing to meet their expectations so that what we just talked about, so they can look good to their peers and to their community, like they're doing a good job as a parent. So the child is like this like puppet to like display for the world how awesome of a parent you are, because they're like, performing correctly. And we have like so much of that. And that's why this generation's like, screw you. I'm not going to perform. I'm not going to do anything that looks like a performance. I'm not going to do anything that makes you feel successful. Like, that's why this generation is just so anti, because we needed a generation of souls to come in and break the paradigm, the perfection, performance, you know, get love, conditional love. Like, I'll give you all my love as long as you make me look good. That's not what it's about. No, like my generation of moms has had to go, okay, I love you, even though I have total egg on my face and everybody thinks I'm a terrible parent because of how you're acting, like, and it's okay. Like, I'll deal with myself and I'm totally here for you. Like, we've actually had to learn unconditional love because of how our kids have been in this generation. They have been very flamboyantly not going along with the status quo.
Wow. And something that was just coming through as you were speaking was that as for those listening to this, that as you're going through this process and reprogramming yourself, that it's that you and your belief that uh, the reflection of what that it's like your child is that reflection of you and in the way of like your success as a parent, and reforming all of that, that there's absolutely going to be other people that will look at you at a certain way, and so there's going to be that receiving of judgment aspect. And so this is where the self-love definitely comes in, of
Oh, yeah.
of loving yourself, because there's going to be people that don't have this awareness that are going to look at you at the store like, you're, can you
Oh,
handle
you're his mother? Oh,
that?
you really screwed him up, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. I was actually getting ready to put this book out and because I say yes when I'm spirit tapped, I always say yes, even though I know it's very vulnerable and raw, because I'm going to be seen and I'm going to talk about things that are really uncomfortable and personal, and I'm going to be exposed, you know. And I was getting finalized on the book because it goes out January 20th, so we're getting close. I mean, it's really close. I started the summit that's launching the book starts on the 4th of January. So like last week or a couple weeks ago, I was feeling like, man, okay, I guess I'm just going to go out there as a freaking hot mess. Like, my family is a hot mess. My mom hasn't talked to me in 2 years. My son, the one I was talking about, is living with my mom right now. He decided he didn't want to talk to me. He started blaming me for some stuff and was like, I'm out of here. I don't want to change the dynamic or whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, you need a break, but so like I'm going out into the public with my book, My Family's a Hot Mess. I'm like, oh man, I'm such a good role model for this work. Like nothing looks good. It's like, oh, my partnership with my husband looks awesome and I have things that look awesome, but it was not perfect, right? It's not perfect. I didn't have like a big family photo of all of us like authentically smiling at the camera going, we love each other so much and we're so glad to be family together. Like, not happening. So I was really upset and I said, all right, well, fine then. So I did this big prayer ceremony and I said, all right, I just accept it. You want me to go out in this way. There must be a reason why. So I'll be the emissary of the messy family. I'll be the emissary of it's not perfect. I'll be the emissary of you got to love them anyway. And it's a hot mess. And yeah, I'm a spiritual teacher. So listen or not. But then like what I told you like a couple days ago, right before Christmas, my mom she said, okay, let's get together. And so I got together and had lunch with my mom and my son, my older son and my younger son and my husband. We all got together and we had a beautiful meal. And my mom's like, I just think this family needs to wipe the slate clean and start over again. And an hour before, I had said the exact same thing in my spiritual group. I was like, my prayer is to be the blank canvas for this family. bam. So I share that only to say there's no guarantees. Like you have to be willing to keep stepping forward in the work, to keep doing the healing, to keep on the path, to keep, seeing these things and healing these things without expectation that you're doing it because you're going to get a result. As soon as I let go of the result and I said, fine, it's just going to be a mess, then something happened to allow space because I let go of my expectation. I let go of all that pressure build up. Can you imagine the pressure on my family? Like, I'm releasing a huge book out into the public domain about, healing our mother wounds and healing our families. And so you guys better all come along, like, don't make me look bad, kind of stuff. Like that energy has got to be felt. And I had to go, you know what? It is what it is. Like we're all in this together. All of humanity has to learn how to get along in their family. And that's like the place, that's like the spiritual deep dive is your family. That's where it's at.
Wow.
Yeah. Woo!
Wow.
Walking around naked.
Letting it all be
And
free.
then I'll be free.
mm. So it's sounding like I've actually been doing more prayer than I have since my schooling that I went through for energy medicine a couple years ago. So is the prayer one of those? What would you say is like some like techniques or some things that can help people with going through and healing these mother wounds? It definitely sounds like prayer is a huge one.
Yeah, well, prayer is a big one, absolutely. There's so many modalities. I mean, whatever modality you want to use is really up to you. I will say that in the book, I worked with White Buffalo Calf Woman, who's a goddess of sacred ceremony with the earth. And so she's an indigenous. I have a little picture from my friend Catherine Skaggs painted this. It's so pretty of
Mm,
White Buffalo Calf Women. So this is a Lakota prophecy, and so this is the teacher that came to me for this work. And it's about living your life as a sacred ceremony. And in the book is an earth mandala that you can create for yourself. That's a personal healing space on the earth. And so there's instructions for how to create it in the book. And you just basically create this on the earth and then let it keep healing you as you go along, and you keep feeding intention to it over the weeks and months until you feel like, okay, I'm healed, I'm complete. And there's a lot of miracles that can happen along the course of just working with the earth in that way, using what's called an earth painting or an earth mandala. And so that practice I share in the book, and it's something I teach as well in my 1 year program, is how to do that kind of work with the earth elements itself, how to work directly with the earth, directly with our divine mother, Mother Earth in her tangible form, and how to heal ourselves. So there's a lot of things I share. I'm very practical, so I love practical, tangible, do this, try that, and I'm all about experiments. So just run a lot of experiments. There's a lot of experiments in the book. You can do like mantras you were talking about. I include several mantras from Paul Selig. Paul Selig is one of my, I just love his work. I think his work is excellent. He's a very clear channel, very, very good. And the mantras do wonders about your inner state of consciousness. So I include some of those mantras and refer back to his work. And also know yourself. You have to really know yourself. So if you want to heal this, if you're like, I've got like 5 out of those 10 things she said, then pick those things and say, okay, where did I get that from? Like, what's the dynamic with my mom? What's the dynamic with my dad even? What's the dynamic with my caretakers? How was my brain formed? So do a little personal inquiry in your past. Like, what was life like when I was 3? What was life like when I was 5? How did I get started? What was life like when I was in vitro inside my mother's womb? What was my life like? What was I experiencing? What was she probably experiencing that I'm stewing in her consciousness? So I'll just say an example, my own example. My mom and my dad met in the 1960s, where, if you think about the 60s, it's all peace, love, and hippies and, free everyone's switching partners and having drugs and all kinds of stuff, right? Like a lot of love and love bombs and crazy music. And so that's when they met. And my mom is from Midwest Texas, where it was not like that at all. It was very Southern Baptist, very strict. And so she met my father and my natural father, and they just like hit it off, and this crazy explosion happened. And she wasn't supposed to be able to have kids, right? So I was the surprise. I was the wasn't supposed to happen. All of a sudden now you can think about in that context, she's like, oh, I'm with a playboy and I've got a daughter. And not only that, but he's got traumas from his own childhood with his mother, and he doesn't have very good boundaries sexually. He could probably molest my child. Now you have a whole nother conversation.
Mhm.
So that's all going on inside my mom's consciousness as I'm in her belly. So you can start to see like the setup that I created for myself. So if you don't have all those details, another place to look is the gene keys. Gene keys or human design type, but I really love the gene keys because I like contemplation, and I think contemplation is super helpful. It's like a form of meditation. But the gene keys tells you some of the patterns that you signed up for in the womb in your first 7 years, in your 7 to 14, and in your 14 to 21. It actually tells you what those patterns were as a soul that you incarnated to work through. So it's very spot on. So it's another avenue to explore to figure out like what are the patterns I'm grappling with in this incarnation. And then so that's a starting place. You have to know yourself and then ask for support. So I think those are the big two things, I guess. Know yourself, find a way to know yourself, and then ask for the larger support. Ask for support from spirit, from the earth, from the allies. We have so many allies on earth.
Mhm.
Mountains, trees, rivers, rocks, animals. I mean, you name it, right? You said hummingbird is your ally. So, I mean, you said butterfly was. Butterfly is your ally. Hummingbird and butterfly are mine too. So there's lots of support, right? So find some good support, open up to receive it, get their medicine and begin the journey and get a teacher, get or community, someplace that you can do like the Gene Keys has a whole contemplation community. So like they're all about contemplating these Gene Keys as a community. So find a community where you can contemplate things or learn things and discover on this path and do the healing.
Mm. Wow. Oh my gosh, so many golden, beautiful nuggets in this. I'm so grateful, Kerri. Thank you so, so, so much for sharing your wisdom. Where can people find you? And then also, I know you're are you allowed to mention your book and
Oh yeah. It's on pre-order. So the book is called Love is Fierce, Healing the Mother Wound, and it's on pre-order. The summit starts on January 4th. And so that is all at motherwoundbook.com. Mother Wound Book. You have to put the book at the end. There's another person doing mother wound work, and she's got the mother wound. So this is motherwoundbook.com, and that'll get you to to order the pre-order the book and get add to the summit. We're going to do live community calls on the summit too. So if people really want to be part of this conversation, like you might want to be part of it, Vanessa.
yeah.
It's just a great space to come into. We're going to have like myself and other leaders in the summit that are just going to come in. We're just going to have community conversation about the themes that are being raised up in these talks so that we can all engage and all speak our voices into this collective. So I want to get a dialogue started that spreads because this is how we're going to change the planet. And
Mm.
yeah, so that's that. And if you just are interested in knowing about me, you'll get on my email list from that. But if you want to look at my page or my services, that's kerrihummingbird.com, Kerri hummingbird.com, and pretty much everything's there.
Yay! Beautiful. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you, Kerri, so much for your beautiful medicine that you have shared with us, your wisdom. Thank you. And um,
Thank you for coming, Vanessa. Thank you for being here and shining your beautiful light. Gosh, I love the wisdom of your generation. It's powerful, it's potent, it's beautiful, and it's just what we need. So thank you for coming and being here and doing this work.
oh, and thank you too, Kerri. All right, bye bye, everybody.